Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be talking about this Ellen Huff Oakleaf Hydrangea. I planted a Snow Queen Oakleaf Hydrangea right outside this fence over here. I think it was sometime in the fall when I planted it. It's actually in bloom now. This Ellen Huff variety is a very vigorous grower that can get 8 or 10 feet tall and 8 or 10 feet wide. And I'm trying to put some large white flowering backdrop items into my white garden over there. And I didn't want to pick another Snow Queen hydrangea unless I was planting them in a group. And I talked about this in another video. If I was planting them in a group, I would have chosen all the same variety, but it's several, maybe 20 feet apart. And I want one, this one I know blooms a little later than that one does. So it's going to extend the period of time that I have flowers in that space. That's the main reason I chose this one. And it's a vigorous grower. I want a big, large item where this one is going. Oakleaf hydrangeas need part shade. It's best if they have sun on them in the early morning. And the space I'm putting them in is on the east side of my house over here. They can get some leaf spot issues, and we've had cloudy, rainy days here for maybe 10 out of the last 12 days, and already this one's got some spotting on it because the foliage stayed wet, and I had it just sitting in another group of plants, and they were kind of tight together, so that water sat on those leaves for some period of time. That's life with an oakleaf hydrangea if the foliage stays wet for any length of time. So like I say, it's part shade, and it would work in the morning sun or the late day sun, but the morning sun will be preferable. These are super, super cold hardy. They're hardy in zones 5 to 9, and as you go up into zones 5 and 6, you can probably put these in quite a bit more sun, but where I'm at in zone 7B, definitely a part shade plant. Ellen Huff will start blooming sometime in the early summer, and it will bloom throughout the summer, and it'll have clusters of flowers that are about 10 inches long and kind of a conical shape, similar to most oakleaf hydrangeas. If you need to do any pruning on these, that's a little tricky because the flower buds are set in the late summer and early fall while these still have some flowers on them. But you can definitely go through and shape it up at that time in the early to mid fall. And if you do any severe pruning on it at that time, which can be done on an oakleaf hydrangea, you can actually take these nearly to the ground if you need to do a reset on them, but that next year you would have limited or no flowers potentially. They're pretty self-maintaining anyway. You don't have to do a lot of pruning on them. They will get some low-hanging branches around them, and I kind of like to limb them up a little bit and keep the leaves off the ground. When the foliage turns in the fall, this thing will be just vivid bright red. Oakleaf hydrangeas are absolutely stunningly beautiful in the fall. One of my absolute favorites for fall foliage. When the leaves fall off of these, I think it's kind of important, and I do this on the big leaf hydrangeas, let's just say all hydrangeas, when the foliage falls off of them in the fall, since they are so vulnerable to getting leaf spot issues, let's get those leaves cleaned up around them after they fall off. They hold the leaves for a long time. They hold them well into the fall with that beautiful red foliage. Once they're off of them, get them out of there, and that way you're not set up the next spring to just have the spores from the leaf spot issues just bouncing right back up on it immediately. I raised these up a little bit in my yard because my soil's so wet, but they don't mind to be in slightly moist conditions. I don't want to say wet. I don't want you to go find the wettest spot in your yard and put an oakleaf hydrangea in it. But they don't mind moist soils. Mine, unfortunately, is not aerated very well because of the clay. And so I do raise them up a little bit, but you'll see these wilt some in the summer. This is a plant you're going to want to drag a water hose over to and give it a generous amount of water when you see it wilting. If you allow it to go into a really hard wilt, almost certainly it's going to dump the flowers and shorten the flowering time on it to save itself. So keep that in mind. This is a plant that may need some additional water. But other than that, I'm going to mix some pine bark soil conditioner in with it, plant it high like I normally do. I'm going to mulch it, but I'm not going to mulch up onto the stems. And easy peasy. They don't really get a lot of pest problems other than the leaf spot issues, and of course deer do like hydrangeas. So here it is in the ground and a good amount of morning sun. The other one is right there, the Snow Queen Oakleaf Hydrangea, and it's in bloom now. This one will bloom later. I did say that deer like hydrangeas. Oakleaf hydrangeas are on a lot of deer resistant lists. It is not my experience and not the experience of some other people that I have talked to in the past, so keep that in mind. It's on the list, but I have seen deer seek these out around other things. So just keep that in mind. It is still late spring. I fertilize with a slow release fertilizer in the spring. So if you're just getting it in, as long as it's before midsummer, you can go ahead and fertilize it. Once we pass midsummer, if you feel like you want to put something in there to help it out, you can use some sort of starter fertilizer or that kind of thing, but nothing with a lot of nitrogen in it. We don't want to force any growth after midsummer. So thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for future videos.